Hello, everybody, and welcome to our today's special online forum and presentation, which is Google Ads Mastery and what to know about the new PMax. My name is Sarah Bryant. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at DBA Platform, where our mission is always to get you found. You already know that DBA is a premier software and managed service provider. We optimize local presence at scale and help win visibility for locations on, we talk a lot about Google, but also Bing, Apple, other platforms where consumers are using, the internet to do their buying journey, which we now know is like the majority of the time. So if you're interested in that, today we're going to be talking about what's complicating Google Ads. If you do Google Ads today, you know that Google is making changes to all of the ad platforms. It used to just be search, but we've got all kinds of inventory ads, and we'll be talking today about the new Performance Max and the benefits and how Performance Max, if you know what you're doing, it can also muck up your ad campaigns. So why is Google doing the work for us, and who is doing the work at Google for us to maximize ad campaigns? And what can we do to get some of our transparency and control back? And then a little bit about where DBA Platform can help you optimize those ad campaigns. So before we get started, we do have a way for you to participate in our program today. And I just want to go over the Zoom controls. If you launch your questions and answers box, what's going to happen is that you're going to see the questions that people are posing to our panel, and then you'll be able to upvote those questions. So throughout the program, if you have questions either to clarify what our speaker is talking about or questions about your own sort of situation, pop them into this Q&A box, and I'll moderate today and ask those questions for you so that we can get down to what you need to know about how ads are working. Also, it's important to know that there will be a recording. We get that question. That is always the first question populated in the box. Will there be a recording? And of course there will. And Luke will be sending that out after the webinar. Because you are registered for the webinar, you'll automatically get the recording. The chat function of the webinar, please use that to correspond with Luke about administrative things for your controls on the Zoom webinar. So if you're having problems hearing, seeing, you have questions about links and things like that, you can ask those to Luke. Questions for our speakers go in the Q&A box. And I want to introduce our speakers for today. This is very exciting because many of you have probably met Justin along the way. He is the SVP of advertising for DBA Platform. He's had a long tenure at Google. He actually helped build, scale, escalate, put organization to the shopping program when he was with Google. And now he works with us, and he works our managed services. He also does R&D for ads. He works very closely with Google and our customers to develop technologies that will help to optimize ad campaigns. He's kind of a 1 in a million guy. He's based in Atlanta, and where he lives with his wife and 3 kids. And then with us today is Emily Zabo-Maurice, who is an ad manager at DBA Platform. Some of you might know her because she works a lot with clients. She's phenomenal at explaining how all of this works with high impact advertising strategies, driving conversions. She is sitting there on a day-to-day basis with Justin, untangling this. She works on a lot of case studies, and she's going to, help explain some of the things that we're seeing at scale, which might be interesting to you. So I guess we can get started. Justin, you want to tell people a little bit about how you worked at Google and came to know this ad environment?
Sure. Yeah, so thank you, Sarah. Welcome, everybody. And my name is Justin Dombrow. And at Google for over a decade, I worked on the retail teams. And part of what I did was consulting with retailers, whether large or small. And back in 2015, I'm almost dating myself now, I was one of the first to launch local inventory ads for a well-known big box retailer in the US. And then 5 years later, during the pandemic, when we're all stuck at home, I was the first to launch curbside pickup for another large retailer. And that really accelerated their growth, and they continue to use that today. Even saw a commercial for it on TV that they were in, promoting it once again 4 years later. I also had the opportunity to work with Performance Max in alpha stage, in beta, and now it's launched to the public. PMax launched about 3 years ago, and when it did, you may remember, it was kind of a struggle because there was a lot of transparency and controls that were not afforded in Performance Max that we were all used to, that we had in our search campaigns and display campaigns. And it's simplistic at its core, the way that Performance Max works, yet the controls that it's lacking, we're going to show you today how to get the most out of this, so how to really take advantage of the features and functionalities, whether working with us or working within Google Ads, to make sure you're getting the most out of Performance Max. Now, I'd like to take a few minutes to just talk about the history of Performance Max and why did Google come up with this idea? Why was this launched? As it said, you had the control when you had multiple campaign types. So you had your standalone, siloed text campaign, display, video, etc. Google wanted to essentially level the playing field, give all advertisers the same availability to get all of their data and insights and run across all of these, what Google calls surfaces, in one easy campaign. There's no need to have a specific budget or specific KPIs or return on ad spend for search versus display, etc. You, as an advertiser, tell Google, here is my goal, hit it. I don't care how you do it, just do it. And that's why Performance Max was born. And by doing that, Google wants you to free up your time and allow you to focus on more important features and parts of your business, which makes sense, and giving up some of that control, which in my experience in working with some agencies back in the past, the more control in some way is detrimental to your campaigns because you are pulling a lot of levers that could hurt your performance. So we all know that Google has all of our data. They have a lot of data, millions of data points across the customer journey. So bundling all that information in, Google makes the right decisions in the right moment at the right time to serve the right ad for each user. All of these functions and features are available for every advertiser now. Years ago, when it launched 3 years ago, it was for specific categories or verticals. Now it's widely used and adopted, and there's a lot of support and engineering effort behind Google to make Performance Max work.
Well, the fact probably is that Google knows better they really do know better how to do this just from the big data set that they have. And we have this conversation all the time with marketers and ad managers who really know their stuff. They know how to make these campaigns work. They know how to dial them in. But that is a subset of people who know how to do it. And then Google is basically saying, let's let everybody have a crack at this and get some success without having to be an expert. And that's what PMax really does. And it introduces all these other surfaces that people really wouldn't know how to break into. And so Correct. This PMax program makes it easy to get some video up. And if you can't do that, Google can help you do it. And so it's just streamlining the process, but to a little bit of a detriment to the people who really know what they're doing.
Right. And to that point, those who know what they're doing are used to working with keywords. And as many know, there are no keywords in Performance Max. There's something that we're going to touch upon called search terms, which is one way to optimize it. We'll get into that. But the old way was you would just have hundreds or thousands of different keywords and negative keywords, and you were used to getting reporting and being able to turn on, turn off different keywords based on volume, performance. That's no longer available. So we're going to show you ways to complement that and make sure you still have some control, maintaining some control, but also letting Google do what it needs to do to get you your results. Okay, so we'll move on here. Now, as we kind of peel back one layer of the onion to understand how the algorithm works and what is required of you as an advertiser and what's required as of your agency you're working with, or if you're managing directly, and what Google does with that information you're providing to determine how to serve a winning ad. So Google's ads targeting has always been based on many factors, and their PPC model, their pay-per-click model, incentivizes Google to put the highest quality, highest paying ad in front of consumers most likely to convert. Now you can see here in this chart at the top, the 12 o'clock, you as an advertiser control your goals and your budgets. This is critical, the goals. You're making sure you're telling Google exactly what you want out of your spend and what is a valuable conversion to you. Google will use that information. We'll talk about that a little bit more and why that's critical to get that right. If you are an advertiser that has a feed in Merchant Center or Google Business Profiles or a dynamic site feed, attach that to the campaign in Performance Max to make sure that Google is using all the data, all of your first-party data that it possibly can to serve in the right places, including a Merchant Center feed allows you to show up on Google Shopping, the shopping carousel. Bottom right, audience signals and brand safety. This is another critical piece that is one of the controls we'll talk about in more detail, but essentially telling Google who you think your most valuable clients are or your prospective customers and where and how you want to show up for those ads is very important to get you the best results. Assets at the bottom. Here, as Sarah touched upon, videos, images, text, that's all very important to load up Performance Max when you start out with, but it's even more critical to check this often and to replenish and update your assets as you go along. Little pro tip here too, if you don't have vertical videos, that's very important too, because that helps you show up more on mobile. We see a lot of advertisers that see majority of their conversions coming from mobile. Now, on the left side, this is what Google controls and what it gets out of what you're providing on the right-hand side to determine where it's going to serve your ad and how often and the expected results. So quality score. This is a accumulation of your history and the attributes, the relevancy, the landing page information, everything that it puts together to determine a score of how confident it is that your ads are relevant to that query. And what Google then does is creates a predicted CTR. It models out the expected chance of a click. And like I said earlier, Google is incentivized to serve your ad that will get a click because it's going to make money and wants to serve the right click to get you the conversion. So all this together is how Google puts together a formula for Performance Max. Okay. Very good. And now I'm going to hand it over to Emily, and she's going to explain really that knowing what I just described already, that PMax does provide utility, does provide value here. And we're going to dig deeper to kind of show you an example of how PMax is doing the work for you. She has a great example of how value became more important than volume. Emily, over to you.
Thank you, Justin. So hi, everyone. My name is Emily. I'm an ad manager here at DBA, like Sarah said at the beginning. So like Justin said, we are seeing a huge shift in digital marketing, and that is moving away from just focusing on clicks to focusing on conversions. And in the past, we've chased clicks and thinking that it was a sign of success, but we know that clicks don't really tell the whole story. And that's where PMax came in and really changed the game. So looking at this slide, we're going to talk about what is different about PMax. Well, PMax uses machine learning to optimize for conversions and not just clicks. And you might be asking yourself, what is a conversion? Well, that's really specific to you and your business. So that could be for some people making a purchase. It could be filling out forms. It could be phone calls. It could be anything that is an action that genuinely helps your business grow. So a comparison I like to use is if you own a clothing store, it could be really great. You know, you have tons of people in your store, they're looking, they're browsing. And immediately you're like, oh my gosh, this is a huge win for us. Look at how many people are in the store. But at the end of the day, it only really matters the people that bought something. So that's kind of the comparison with clicks over conversions. Conversions hold the most weight. And then this is actually a graph of a client that we partnered with on this called Broadhead Chevrolet. And like looking at this graph, this is how PMax works. So with this campaign, PMax was introduced at the very beginning in September of 2023. And what PMax does is it casts a wide net. So in the black line, that represents clicks, and the blue represents conversions. And you can see where it ticks up on the clicks. It could be very exciting, but then you see the conversions aren't that great. But what it does at first is it casts a wide net to see, put out feelers and see where your ad is doing the best. So, and then it learns based on the people that are making those conversions, like what were they searching for? And, what other things are this customer looking for? And then serving your ad to the correct people. And you can see that by it, when it learns this information, it serves your ad. And over time, you actually save money on clicks, but you get consistent conversion. So if you can see, it goes, this is just September through November. So at first, it's a wide net of clicks. That's where the black line shoots up. But then you see it drops down. And then by November, look at all of those conversions that they were consistently getting.
So it takes a moment, is what you're saying. But PMax is going to go test the waters. This aggravates a lot of marketers because PMax will go out and test things that we know are not going to work. But it does find pockets sometimes of things that we hadn't thought of. And that can be really interesting. But, when PMax first came out, this was the big complaint, like it's overspending and we're not getting the conversions. We're getting a lot of activity, which is exciting, but does that equate to actual sales? And the other interesting thing is that when Google made these changes, Justin, I know we had a lot of conversations internally. When they made these changes, they now allow the user to decide what a conversion is. So people will say, well, what should a conversion be, right? And how much should a conversion cost and all that stuff? And now it is so customized to the individual ad campaign that we can't even answer those questions anymore. Just another kind of transparency issue with Google, right? Is there's no comparison left anymore. You can't say what's the standard because each campaign is set to its own thing. But this little disparity only took what, like 6 weeks or so to kind of and then look at all of that blue sea of conversions for what is now a very low number of clicks, because Google has figured out a sweet spot of not only keywords that it's doing behind the scenes, but also the type of customer that it's got this big data set that it can make all these connections with. So this is a really cool illustration that Broadhead Chevrolet let us put together about their campaign that Emily worked on, and to see how this curve works, because we do hear a lot of complaints but ultimately also a lot of good things about PMax.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it, just like you said, it typically takes about 6 weeks to fully ramp up, and that's illustrated here on this graph as well. So some expected volatility when it first launches is to be expected, but then you can see that it really pays for itself after 6 weeks. So it's a really great program. So I know that we've talked a little bit about losing control, and that sounds scary, especially when this is your business, this is your livelihood, and you want to be in every aspect of your business, and that's totally understandable. But PMax actually does give you great balance. You get actionable insights and some reporting without having to micromanage. So typically, like Justin said earlier, it would be all individual campaigns, a shopping campaign, a display campaign, a video campaign. And with PMax combining them, you do lose a little bit of that transparency to see individually what is doing better or what needs work on. And that's where DBA comes into play. So we are unique in the sense that we have the capability to offer our clients, give back that transparency. So this is a graph, and it's an example of one of our clients. Using our ability, we can look into their PMax account and we can see, like, for instance, their shopping part of their PMax campaign is doing really well. They're in the yellow, the search text is kind of up and down. They don't have a video campaign, and their display campaign needs some work. So Google Ads does not give you this transparency with a PMax campaign. This is something that's special for DBA clients, and we give you that transparency back and gives you a little bit more security and a way just to see what's working, what needs adjusted. And it's a really great, useful tool that we are very proud to give to our clients. So with that all being said, the main takeaway is to shift our focus from volume to value, quality over quantity. So I'm asking you to embrace PMax, trust the AI, as scary as that can be sometimes. I know we've all seen those, end of world movies with the robots take over, but this is a good one, I promise. But to prioritize those conversions that really matter specifically to you and your business. So everything I just talked about will be in a blog that's going to be posted to our site shortly. So if you want to read more about this and more details, it will be on our site soon. And while you're over there, there's a lot more information if you want to give it a peruse. And with that said, I'm going to pass it back over to Justin, and he is going to take you through some examples of how we help clients reach success with PMax.
And Justin, before you do, I have some questions that are accumulating in the Q&A box that I could ask about some of the stuff that we've already talked about. So this one, we have a bunch of anonymous ones. So this is an anonymous question. I'm not sure that I understand it. I don't know that there's enough detail here, but the question is, does the 6-week volatility follow any major changes you make as well? Oh, you're muted.
I think I understand this. Okay, I think what we're trying to get at here is when you create a new Performance Max campaign, if you make major changes to it within that first 6 weeks, it will usually extend the learning period. So it could create some volatility. It really depends on the changes you make.
Why would somebody make changes to the PMax campaign?
Initially, if they have a certain budget and they see performance is not going well, they get discouraged and want to shut it off. Or if they don't have enough assets, maybe when they're launching and they add a lot more assets, then Google has to learn what those assets are, or if we're adding audiences or taking away. So big changes affect the learning period. But as a whole, I would say, yeah, 4 to 6 weeks in general is the right amount of time to give Performance Max a solid ground and footing to understand where and how it should be serving.
Okay, here's another question by an anonymous attendee. At the moment, the only way to promote on Google Maps is via PMax campaign, right? No way to only promote on Google Maps and the local map pack in the SERP.
Right. Yeah, that's true. About, what was it, maybe 2022, LSAs or local search ads or just local ads were folded into Performance Max. So yeah, that goes back to the entire theme of Google just trying to make it easier for advertisers just to get a comprehensive suite of what Google calls services and serving everywhere a consumer might be and not just finding them only on maps.
Okay, somebody said, sorry, what about making changes after the first 6 weeks? We didn't go into after the first 6 weeks, right? We talked about within the first 6 weeks. If you make changes to the campaign, it could extend the learning for Google, but not a bunch.
Yeah,
How about changes along the way after the first 6 weeks?
That's okay. It's as a rule of thumb, 6 weeks. But it also depends on your budget and the volume too. You could run for 6 weeks at $5 a day. It's not probably going to be ready for prime time. to serve. If you're spending $1,000 a day, you could probably shorten that learning period to 2 weeks. So it really, at Google, it's all about being statistically significant and knowing and getting the confidence of where it's serving and how that next ad will be served and what will be the benefit. So take the 6 weeks as a rule of thumb, but in our cases, we see results sooner.
Okay, and somebody asked a clarifying question. Is it possible to see PMax traffic on Google Analytics and see what channel it's attributed to, like if it's attributed to display?
Great question. So that actually ties well with this chart. So the quick answer is there is a channel called cross network. So Google does not reveal, it's one of these transparency veils. Google does not reveal in Performance Max where you're serving or how much you're serving or the return. What Emily just talked about, what this graph is showing, is that we do. So this information is not available in Google Ads. It's just going to say cross network. It's going to bucket all of those Google surfaces, all 7, maybe even more, into one line item. But the report that we have will give you all that information and show you the return by channel and spend by channel. So you'll have that. Okay.
Perfect. Let's go into the mistakes and what to do about it. And I'm getting some great questions on what to do about some of this stuff, which I'll pose to you in a minute.
Okay, wonderful. So at this point, we are going to switch now to talk about the top 5 Performance Max mistakes and how to fix them. And essentially showing you levers that you can pull to drive value, which is what Emily just talked about. So, and these are in no particular order. We just see these come in often, and these are the ones that drive the best return once we make changes, or you make changes based on what we showed today. The first one is understanding that Performance Max is not a solution. Sorry, it is the solution. Sorry. Performance Max is a solution. It is not the solution. Meaning, Performance Max is not going to solve all your problems. You still need to maintain text campaigns. You still need to run those alongside Performance Max. And you may be thinking, well, Performance Max does have text campaigns, so why do I need to run my own? Now, you want to maintain that control and keep your search campaigns live, especially whether it's for branding purposes or conquesting. You still want to maintain that visibility and control budget, control where, and get some feedback on how those keywords are performing. So you still want to maintain both of those and run them together. Now, on the left-hand side on this graph, you could see that if you just run search, you are only running on that one channel, that one surface. By running and complementing search with Performance Max, you get more exposure to more surfaces, and you are showing up in more places where people are. Obviously, it's going to get more clicks, more impressions, etc. But Google is using that information. It's putting out feelers, as Emily mentioned, and it's finding where your ideal traffic is. And then, since Performance Max is not siloed, you don't have individual text, display, video. When Performance Max is bundled together, it's sharing that information in real time. So if a display ad goes out and it failed, it will inform Discover and YouTube and Maps in real time and say, hold off, don't put an ad out to that individual or that bucket of that audience. It doesn't work. So there is that efficiency play there too. But to sum it up here, the advice here is to continue running your search campaigns and then layer on Performance Max to supplement what you're already doing. Okay. Now, to regroup on this fix part of number 1, you don't want to replace it. You want to run alongside, and I can't stress this enough. You want to maintain. It is extra work, but you want to maintain this. Now, one more tip here too. When you're running search keywords, in your search text campaign, and we know that Performance Max, which has no keywords, will show up on search, the fallback is your search campaigns from Performance Max. What this means is if you have the same exact keyword, not exact match, let's say the same keyword or same phrase, and it's entered, both campaigns, search and Performance Max, are entered into the auction. Google, within a few milliseconds, knows that if it serves a Performance Max keyword out of that campaign, it will perform better than your search text campaign, and vice versa. So having both ensures efficiency, because Google has an option to serve based on history, based on quality score, based on ads, based on assets, everything that you load up the campaigns with. Google will have options to get you a better, efficient click.
So Kiki asked, would you suggest PMax over traditional managed search campaigns or a mix of both? And do you think PMax will be the main way to set up Google ad campaigns in the future?
Great question. I would say keep search campaigns if you have them ready, because there's history there. There's a lot of history that Google uses. And when you create your Performance Max campaigns, that campaign, Performance Max campaign, uses information from your accounts. So when it launches, it has a leg up already. So it knows what's running and what types of keywords are in the search campaign. So I would still say, yes, keep both running. You could trim down your exposure, meaning your keywords that are in your traditional search campaign, because also it does take time for Google to kind of spider through your search campaign. If you have 1,000 keywords and it's not well organized, and let's say you have one keyword per ad group, any type of structure that's complex for Google makes it harder to serve and your efficiency goes down. So maintaining a search text campaign for brands or conquesting or specific product lines that can drive volume and conversions, keep that there, and consider your mindset is using Performance Max to serve on other places. And it's using that information from text to inform where to serve Performance Max.
Good insight.
Okay, great. So let's go. Yeah, another question, or should we move on? Move on?
Move on. I have some good questions coming in.
Great. Okay, this is a fun one. So mistake number 2 is the issue we see about not using exclusions. And what we mean here is Google is very open and receptive to having you set up content suitability guardrails for your ads. You may remember a few years ago, there was a big issue on YouTube where there was a lot of negative content, and big brands like AT&T and others were showing up on content that they don't want to show up on. So they,
what do you mean? Like, what's negative content on YouTube?
Okay, so this would be anything, let's say, political or violent, or just nothing that would be appropriate, that would almost not be shown on TV. In a way,
like racy, violent. YouTube is obviously doesn't have the same like general audience controls as like primetime television.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So topics like that, which you have a gut about it. You say, you know what, probably not going to get. It probably wouldn't be good for my brand to show up on news articles that are not related to my brand. So here in this example. Here is we mocked this up, obviously, but this is an exercise video, and the ad is trying to sell somebody pork rinds, which is not really a relevant audience. At least I don't think it is. I don't know. So what you want to do here too is just understand that you have the control to determine where your ads show up. And it's not only on racy content, these are just maybe placements that just don't help your brands, that kind of fall in that gray area where, you know, like an example would be a luxury brand retailer may prefer not to show up on content that is around salesy or bargain hunter type content, for example. So that's not dangerous, but it's not, doesn't help the brand out.
Right.
Yeah. So then here, a fix here we can talk about is the ability to use, like I said, content suitability and placement exclusions. You really want to protect your brands and target placements that make sense across Google's network, whether it's on YouTube, the Google Display Network, the GDN, or even mobile apps too. And this allows you to exclude domains, websites, etc. And what this does is allows you to keep control on Performance Max like you would on search at scale. So there's two options here, really three. The first top section, by default, these aren't checked. So by default, when you're creating an account or running your live account right now, go in and check this. And our recommendation is to check the middle box, which is standard inventory, because if it's not checked, you're running on inventory which you probably, or you may not want to run on right now. Below that, the section below it allows you, there's more sensitive content, sexually suggestive, profanity, and rough language. And then there's other content like park domains or below the fold content, which is not harmful. You just want to save impressions and save your CPMs. And then you can also do keyword exclusions and placement exclusions. We have built out, in our experience, a curated list of 65,000 placements across YouTube, mobile apps, and display network. And why 65,000? That's the limit that you can do in an account. So we've built this out, and these are sites that just don't add value, they don't add quality, and don't drive conversions. So we've done all the hard work already, building out this list, and we add these lists by default to all accounts that we work with.
I have a really complex but interesting question
Okay.
from Carlos, and he said, related to the question about Google Maps, this was the question I asked earlier, like you can only use PMax for Google Maps, right? And so he said, we have a client that does funerals, and we want to appear in the Google Maps or local map pack when somebody's looking for funeral services, which is a logical place where a normal buyer would be looking for something. But PMax is not suitable for us because we're going to be reminding everybody about death whenever they're surfing the web. Or worse, if we use remarketing, PMax is going to constantly remind people that they lost somebody recently. Like, it's just not appropriate in an industry like that. So what are your thoughts about a case like that? What can you do? Is there any way to exclude channels and really just get where you need to be when people are searching?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's great. Using these exclusions on here, fine-tuning this to limit the content you're serving on is one answer. I would say also, not if you cannot include assets in Performance Max. There are ways that you
I know, I can see your brain thinking about all the backdoor ways to do it. Justin's like, okay, this is a longer answer.
Right. That, you know,
is it possible, Justin? Do you think it's possible to limit to just
Yeah. It is possible.
Yeah. So Carlos, I mean, that's a very specific case, and I know Justin knows a million ways to get around things, and it has to do with, not putting assets. Like, if you have no video assets, you're not going to run in YouTube. But every day, Google is figuring out new ways, right? So if you don't put up a video, Google goes, well, we'll take your photos and we'll turn that into a video. So, like, is this something that has to be constantly monitored? And in cases like that, you might want to use managed services, which is not an expensive thing to do, but have somebody who does this all day long, knowing that stuff for you. So that's a little bit of a plug for our managed services team. But, and if you guys have more specific questions like that, the Facebook group is a good place to pose those because Yan in listings, Justin for ads, these experts can help solve your problem and tell you how to do that like in the least expensive way possible. What I want to just say about a problem like that is that if you can solve that for your client, the harder it is to solve that problem, the less competition your client is going to have in their market. Meaning, if a funeral director works with you and you work with us and we solve that problem, which is hard to solve, every other funeral director in that guy's market is going to be no competition for him. So it's a big win in these kind of like niche cases where you have to do a lot of workarounds. So talk to us.
Right.
All right, Justin.
I mean, as you're speaking, I'm thinking more of an answer. I don't want to spend too much time, but I'll give it another answer too for Carlos. Is that Performance Max learns every time it serves an impression. So you may think that Google Maps is your best channel, but it could be display. It could be discover ads. There are other areas where Google knows what's best for you. And so there is an insights section on the left side in Performance Max that tells you tells you the types of terms and the insights you're showing up for. So it's giving you that information and it's helping you make better decisions. And this is a great segue because the next problem that we're talking about is related to audiences. So in a case like funeral homes, you want to make sure that you are showing up for the right queries and you're loading up your audiences and I'll talk more about that in a minute. And this example here, like I just talked about, if you don't tell Performance Max who your customers are, it's going to have a harder time serving ads for you. And we know that it's going to serve across many different surfaces, but you want to give it a head start and have it serve in places that make sense for your business. So in this example, if you're an online retailer and you serve fitness equipment, you sell yoga mats, you sell yoga blocks, but you don't have goat yoga, which is a form of exercise. So what this is saying, you tell Google, I want you to focus only on products I sell, and these are, when people search for a yoga mat, I want my ad to show up. But if someone searches for goat yoga, I don't want my ad to show up. The common theme is yoga throughout, but there's different variations of this. So these little nuances are important to tell Google so you're not wasting your time and effort and money in your ads. Now, a fix for this, like I kind of hinted earlier too, within an asset group in Performance Max, on the right-hand side, there's something called signals, and there's search themes and audience signals. The first one, search themes. As I said before, Performance Max has no keywords. And that was a big struggle. There were a lot of pushback from advertisers who need keywords, who want keywords. And when this came out, search themes came out almost a year ago, last October. When it came out, this was something that was kind of controversial because Google initially said, when it launched PMax, that you don't have to do all the work. We'll do it for you. But now, by using a search theme, you are telling Google, I want you to focus on people that are searching for these keywords, these queries. So you're allowed to provide 25 search themes. It could be a single word, it could be 3 words, whatever it is. You're essentially prioritizing those keywords to Performance Max to tell Google that if someone's searching for this theme, this keyword, I want my Performance Max ad to show up no matter what. And that's essentially what it does. Again, it's another signal. Like I said, there's hundreds of thousands of signals that Google takes in on every user, and it knows users incredibly well, and you know your products incredibly well. You know what people are searching for. Tell Google that. Bridge that gap to make it easier for Google to serve for you. Now, the bottom part here with audience signals too, whether it's in-market or affinity audiences, and what this means is in-market is somebody has researched, they have proven to Google that they are close to buying. They're kind of at the middle to lower funnel of purchasing decisions, and they are bucketed by Google as an in-market audience. And you want to tell Google, these are the people that you want to target. There are thousands of these audiences, so please just kind of go in there, search for what you're looking for, and Google will recommend adding those. And here, you also can add your own data. So if you have the ability to, and not many advertisers do this, you take your first-party data. So you know your clients' names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses. You upload that information to Google, and by doing that, you let Google know that these are my people, these are my clients, find more people like them. That also unlocks, once you have over 1,000 individuals, that also unlocks something called new customer acquisition. So new customer acquisition is another signal, another way to target new customers. So you're telling Google, here's my customer list of 1,000 people. Find more people like them, but don't serve my ads to those 1,000 because they already bought from me. So it's just another layer you can add on to grow efficiency with your ad spend. Okay, very good. We're almost done. Mistake number 4. Mistake number 4, this means that you're not assigning values to conversions. So Google Ads conversion actions are specific actions that you define. They're personal, that you define them as valuable for your own business. And these could be purchases, signups, phone calls, form fills, etc., that occur and are marked by Google after a specific action is taken that you tell Google that's important. This helps measure the effectiveness and helps Google optimize for the next click to make sure you're driving those important decisions with Google. And basically, Google wants to get you what you value and give you the highest and best return. So there are different ways to measure each of these conversions and different actions. So if you haven't already, and this is one of the big issues we see, on the upper right-hand side, in goals, in your account level, you want to create a conversion. And there is a little technical because you have to take some code that Google gives you, put onto your site in a certain place. But you're telling Google that an individual action is worth X amount to me. And what this allows Google, you're basically unlocking arbitrage with Google. Because if you say a specific action, here in this example, a phone call is worth $15, you're basically telling Google that I want you to bid on and find users and give me a value of $15. So that arbitrage, meaning Google will bid for you and it's confident that it could return a $15 value. So you're basically allowing Google to spend your money because it's going to show you the return you're going to get. And ROI, return on investment, and then also the bottom one too. This, again, not used widely. This option here, conversion value rules, is available within the campaign setting for Performance Max. When you understand your users, and we know that many users convert on mobile specifically, you can tell Google that if you find somebody who fits the profile of an audience for me and is a converter, I want you to bid up for mobile. So conversion value rules allows you to bid, whether positive or negative, for devices, so mobile, desktop, tablet, or locations and audiences. So this is another layer on, another signal you're giving Google just to go after the people in the right moment, in the right place.
So Patrick asked on this one, what's the best bidding strategy for fix number 4? Setting up conversion value. What's the best bidding strategy?
Okay, if you're an e-commerce player and you're passing back dynamic values in real time, then maximize conversion value. So, and that also could be here if you know a value like a calls from ads. So you're saying you said it maximize conversion value. Google will spend your budget and go out across the web and find what it can bring back to you as the best value by arbitraging your bids. If you are uncertain and let's say you just want to drive conversions, you just want to drive sales, use maximize conversions.
Okay, and Carlos asked, any suggestion when assigning value to a conversion? It feels hard, which we hear this all the time, right?
Yeah.
It feels hard to give a number because we don't know the exact margins for services or products to the clients. Now, from the agency side, I'm going to say you got to figure that out and you have to force your clients to tell you. And we use tools, calculators to do that because it's a painful conversation to have to figure out what an action is worth. And it takes time, but it's worth doing because that information is valuable for the purposes of this, but also for you, if you're an agency, to demonstrate value to the client, you have to have that. That's a lesson that I learned. But Justin, what's your insight on how do you make that determination?
Yeah, I would say the more data, the better. So if you have that information, it's going to be helpful. It's actually a hard nut to crack. Even Google wasn't able to do this because it wanted to pass and allow retailers to bid by profit, but it's very hard to get that information. I would say start out low. So if you have an idea of what a click, well, really think about the amount of people visiting your websites, and then what is the amount of people that will convert off of that click, and what is the average sale of that. So there's ways to reverse engineer it, but be more conservative in that number and use a lower number, and then look at your volume, look at on Google Ads, and see at least having a number greater than 1 is going to benefit you. So if you don't know, increase it to 2, increase it to 5. Tell Google that a conversion is worth more than $1. That will at least kind of get you off the ground floor and allow you to see some movement. And then at that point, you'll get a better understanding based on how much you're spending on Google Ads and how much more traffic you're driving. And then in combination with the other fixes we talked about, we want to drive more relevant, efficient traffic, which will then help you determine how to raise the number.
I think we have an education on it too. I think maybe Luke can answer. I think there might be a blog or something about the exact script to get that, which is a worthy exercise. And if we don't, I know we have that education and we can post it as a blog. So I'll talk to our marketing team and see if we can get that up on the website.
Okay. Wonderful. Very good. I know we have a few more questions, right? So I want to get through.
We do. You want to get through number 5 and we'll.
Yes. I love this image. Cyber trucks. So what I want us to talk about here too, mistake number 5, no visibility into your inventory. And what we're talking about here is when let's say you're an automotive dealer, and you are supplying your feed and you're running all of your inventory on Google, and you're just applying in Performance Max the same bid treatment, the same return on ad spend treatment for every vehicle. And we know that there's new, used, certified pre-owned. There are different vehicles that have different margins. So a recommendation here that we want to employ and use is to segment out and filter your inventory based on attributes that make sense to you. We have a library, we have a whole menu of ones that we use and recommendations, whether it's here in this example by model, which is just one that you could do. And we encourage you to segment inventory because it, at that point, shows you the performance and the ad metrics for whatever segment you're pulling out. So it doesn't mean you have to have a separate campaign, which we actually don't encourage, but it just means that when Google bids for you, it will report back, and that's that whole transparency thing we spoke about earlier. This will report back to you how that attribute in this example model is performing for you. Now, the note here too is just to maintain at least 50 products in the listing group, because anything below that is detrimental to your performance and serving, because Google likes more data. We know that. Google likes more products in each listing group to serve it better. So that's it. So,
All right, before I go into the questions, I just wanted to say, if you have more questions and we don't get to your question, please join our private Facebook group. Luke is standing by. He will throw the link in, or has already, into the webinar chat. So you can go there and get yourself in that private group to ask, more detailed questions about your business cases. If you want to contact sales, Luke has put links in for our newsletter, contacting our sales department. DBA does offer a SaaS platform that helps to manage ad campaigns, especially when those campaigns involve inventory. We are constantly developing like these little widgets, APIs, things to help industries to compete as Google, Microsoft, Apple change their surfaces. And so if you need any help with any of this, we have software solutions. We also have managed services. We have recently done some case study comparisons of our client managed software ad campaigns versus our managed service department, where Emily, Justin, and that team manages ads for you, to see what the difference is. There's a huge difference in the outcomes that our managed services team can get. And, I think that's just experience, software, staying plugged in, making tweaks every day, paying attention to campaigns. So that might be something that you want to do as this gets more niche and complicated. So reach out to us if you need any support or help. And now we're going to, we only have a couple of minutes left. Usually I end the webinar right at the top of the hour, but we have the opportunity to have Justin answer questions. So
I see them now, so I'll go through ones that I think I can give a quick answer on. With a few minutes.
Go ahead and read the questions and answers that you want to do, and we'll stay on as long as we can. If you guys need to go, I want to thank you for joining us on the webinar. We'll have another one next week. We are going to be doing more on ads. We've generally done our webinar stuff on listings, so we're going to do a combination of those two things as people are asking for more and more ad content. So thanks for being here, and please feel free to let us know what kinds of content you'd like to know, and we'll build webinars by our experts on those themes. All right, Justin.
Okay. The first question about, is it a benefit to repeat search themes rephrased differently? For example, plumbing services in city and plumbing city. Years ago, yes. No longer is that needed, because Google understands these types of queries and knows that if it's the same intent, it would consider both of those terms, plumbing services in city and plumbing city, as redundant. If you feel that you feel like they're different, keep both. But if you feel they're the same, Google will as well, and you can remove it. Next question, when we run a Performance Max vehicle listings ads campaign, the majority of the budget is going to the Performance Max network and not to the vehicle listings ads. Is there anything we can do to stop or reduce the PMax spend, meaning, I guess, outside of vehicle listing ads, and encourage the budget to go to VLAs, vehicle listing ads? That is something, like we mentioned earlier too, you want to, if you can, strip out excess assets. Anything that would really run on display network. You could add those placement exclusions and prevent, let's say, we have ways also you can contact Google to opt out of video. There are ways to do this too. So by limiting your exposure to anything besides vehicle listings will help you too. And then also that insight that Emily spoke about, where we show where it's serving, it will reinforce how it's delivering, and we can show return on ad spend, because maybe search or YouTube is performing, but I understand, yeah, if you wanted to show up in shopping, I would say also another point too, we didn't mention at all, is making sure your feed is fully optimized too. Make sure all the attributes are there, because the more confidence Google has in your data, the more likely it's going to show in those relevant places. So with shopping ads, we know that a title, having like front-loading attributes is very important. We want to have all that information there, and we help with that as well, too. And another question, if we tweak a Performance Max campaign weekly, a couple of new headings, images, small changes, is that a good thing? Or is it better to do more changes at once and then sit back and wait? Too much of a good thing is probably too much at this point. So I would say it really depends on the feedback you're getting from Google. Meaning, if you're changing headlines and assets very often, did Google have enough time to optimize for you? Did you just have 30 clicks? You really need to have a lot more information into. I would actually use experiments. There's a section in Google Ads called experiments where you can set this up and let it run. I think Google likes to see 45 to 60 days for an experiment. So you could say, and we do this often too. I just ran an experiment for a path. So there's a display URL, and then there's paths right after that. And I added a path, and it made such a big change, and it came back in 2 weeks, and I couldn't believe how fast it came back. So there are different ways to test things out. I would encourage you not to change things out that often unless you have a lot of data behind it. Okay, how do you manage branded keywords in Performance Max to avoid getting conversions only from branded over generic? There's a few different ways here. There's brand lists that you can use that you can, I think in Performance Max, it will restrict searches for those brands. And I think in text, I think it's called brand exclusions. Again, it will exclude your ads from showing up on those brands. And then also use negative keywords too. Now, for conversions, I want people to fill out a form on my website. And is it better to measure website visits for that type of conversion, or is there a better way? There is, such as a form submission. Yes, I would encourage you, if you have the option, and it should be set up already automatically in GA4, that it will show you an event for form submissions. So GA4 has that created already. You want to mark it as a key event and then allow Google to drive traffic to people that fill out the form. You have to connect it. You have to import it from GA4 when you set up a new conversion. But yes, I would encourage you place the right value on that too for that conversion. You could also, and set it to primary conversion. You could also set up a secondary conversion in Google Ads to track website views of that page. So you could then find the ratio of people that visited the page compared to people that filled out the form. And then also look at bounce reports in GA4. And maybe maybe you should move the form up, or change the font, or change the colors. Experiment different places, and even maybe have a duplicate page and do an A/B test and see if you can increase the conversion rates for your forms. Okay. Okay. You had mentioned there are 6 common mistakes. Real quick, what is the 6th mistake? Okay. We had 5, but I'll add one now. This is a good one. We talked a lot about audiences and making sure, really Performance Max lets you get across more surfaces and you expand your coverage. What we didn't talk about is Microsoft and Facebook. So we do that also. So beyond just running on Google, we encourage you to run on Microsoft and run on Facebook. We manage that as well. And there are different demographics, different people that are on Microsoft who don't necessarily use Google. The demographics on Microsoft are just older and higher household incomes. So it's always good to try out different areas. There's very little overlap. And
we have tested it and actually found it to be a blue ocean, if you guys are familiar with that, which is like kind of an untapped spot because everybody's competing for Google. So there's these little pockets, and actually our suggestion is you should maximize those pockets first, and then move on and try to compete in Google because competition is much higher there. But you can just pick up. I mean, if you may be the only service provider of your kind doing ads over in those other platforms, and so you can really make bank there. But it's a more limited audience.
correct. Yeah, the auction depth, which is meaning that the number of ads that appear in Microsoft are lower, so it gives you more opportunity to kind of subsidize your overall holistic ad spend and get lower CPCs on Microsoft.
If you answer this last question, it'll be the first time we ever answered all the questions in a webinar.
Let's go for it. Yeah. Okay. How should we test conversion values? How much time should we let Google to understand a value before changing it? Are there big changes on the campaign by changing the value of the conversion?
Of course, it's Carlos, so there's 4 questions buried in there.
Yeah, no, this is great, and I understand where he's going with this. By testing a value greater than 1, you're letting Google know that you understand what a conversion is worth to you. And so what I mean by this is letting Google know and kind of have free will of serving your ads. You're going to get higher quality inventory. You get higher quality leads if Google is confident that it's going to return a value greater than 1 to you. The algorithm is super intelligent now. Like I said, it's sharing it's sharing data in real time across inventory. It's doing the same with conversion values or budget changes. The changes you make are replicated or propagated across almost instantaneously. If you remember smart shopping campaigns years ago, when a ROAS target or a conversion value was changed in smart shopping, it took about 24 hours for that target number to trickle down into display campaigns. And that was something that was probably internal back then when I was at Google. We couldn't really tell advertisers this. But now with Performance Max, this is all happening in real time. It's slimmed down, it's sleeker. You change a value from, let's say, $2 to $5 for a conversion action, then the next bid will be adjusted based on that new value. It's almost instantaneous.
If you are an agency and you deal with a bunch of different clients in a bunch of different verticals, you charge a percentage of ad spend, which is a pretty big chunk to charge. So it's a nice fee that you get. You can use DBA's managed services for a flat fee and basically eliminate all your work, have somebody like Justin managing your stuff, get the best results possible, and keep all of the percentage of ad spend for yourself. So think about it, because we have the software, the tools, the knowledge, like we know what's coming next and how to react to it. And if you're a client of ours, we'll teach you that stuff too. So think about doing that just to ease yourself of having to deal with and just for the reporting alone. I mean, just for the reporting alone, the software platform is a big help. So I think we've answered all the questions, and if you need extra help, let us know. We're here for you. If you want more webinar topics handled, please let us know what they are, and we will put something together on it. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Emily. Thank you for coming and sharing all of your knowledge with us.
Thank you.
See you next month.